Hi guys, how are you? And welcome to the Easy Chat Live. Today is the topic today is stories. Stories is so important, and especially when you're creating something like case studies. I want to introduce you to Shehani K. Hi Shehani, how are you?
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
And
thanks for having me on.
I am so delighted that you could join us, because what you're doing, you're a master of case studies, and case studies is all about storytelling. A lot of entrepreneurs, especially at the start of their business, they don't have case studies, or they don't understand how to actually put them together. In fact, most of the time, you can create a case study from what you have done already, so hi Jane, this is very interesting topic to me. So Shehani, I want you to start, maybe tell us a couple of words about what you do in general and as an entrepreneur, about your journey, just so we can get into the main subject.
Sure. So I've been writing since I was a wee little girl, and so stories have always been fascinating to me. And I sort of had a very dynamic life, I guess is what you would call it. I've lived in 9 different cities in 4 countries. So I've lived in Europe, I've lived in Asia, I've lived mostly in North America, and everywhere I go, I always feel like I'm starting over again with my career, because you start again and again. So I decided that I was going to specialize in what I specialize in, right? So I mean, I've been in marketing, I've been in social media, and a lot of startups and tech companies. So what I'm doing now is I do customer case studies, or customer success stories. We call them all kinds of different things. They kind of mean the same thing, to help businesses basically leverage their past successes, so that they don't have to start over again every time they talk to a new lead. So stories are super interesting for me in the selling context, because stories are super memorable, right? So there's been lots of studies done about how stories work, how we're hardwired for stories. I mean, we learn stuff as children from stories, right? Don't cry wolf, the ugly duckling, like all these stories are the hare and the tortoise. These are all stories that we grew up with to teach us lessons. And and stories are kind of the only way we understand our lives in context with what's happening. It's the way we tell people about ourselves. When you're meeting people, you always have the story that you talk about, that, where am I from? What do I do? Et cetera, et cetera. So we're hardwired for stories. And sorry, I just wanted to give one quick little, I heard about this study a while ago, and I thought it was really interesting, especially for case studies, because a lot of people go with the big number, the result. And it's like, we 10x this thing, or 1000% this, right? And they think that that's enough to convince people. But if you look at the stages of awareness of how the market is, like where people understand whether they don't know if they have a problem, or if they know if they have a problem, or if they know that there's some kind of solution, but they don't know whose solution, all those things matter about where you would put the stats, or where you would emphasize stats. So there's a professor at Stanford, his name is Chip. He wrote the book Made to Stick. And he had, so he is this experiment he would do in his class. He'd basically be like, okay, kids, you have 1 minute to do a pitch. And so everybody would go around, they would do a pitch. And what they found was that, the typical student used 2.5 stats in their pitch. And only 1 in 10 used the story. And then after all the pitches were done, he was like, okay, write down as many things as you remember about those pitches, specific things. And it turned out that, 5% of people remembered specific stats, and 63% of the students remembered the story. It's because that's how we remember stuff. We remember stuff through stories.
Yeah, that's right, and that's amazing actually, and I agree with that 100%, because my brain is not wired to remember numbers. I'm even with time zones, I'm mixed up. Ask anyone who is booking calls with me. It's a disaster. But but the story is something that I 100% will remember and remember and relate to, and I think that's creating that relation to. And you're right, we are brought up on stories, fairy tales, and this is the way we learn. It's like the animals are showing each other what to do. Our parents are telling us stories,
Exactly.
So yeah, it's so interesting. So tell me more. I'm really interested in
Right.
how the secrets behind that, the good
Right, so
case study.
So for customer stories or the things that we like to, because I mean, why do we tell a customer story? We're telling them the story because we want to show that our solution works. We want to show that it's effective. It's like a demonstration that somebody else took the risk on your product or your service or your solution and they succeeded. So it's not a risk for your prospects because somebody else took the risk. It's social proof. It builds trust and credibility, right? Because other people have done it, other people like it. But one of the things about customer stories in particular is a lot of people cut out the story part, like I was saying, and they kind of emphasize the results. And the thing about selling stories is it's not, yes, the results are really important. Of course they are. But what this convinces people is the transformation. What exactly was the problem and why did they decide to make the change, right? Like that's the thing that's often missing in customer stories is that they just go straight to like, oh, they had a problem, they use my solution and then they 10x, right? And people expect that to be the thing that changes. Now, if somebody's already aware of your product and somebody's already read all the things about your product and they're already semi-convinced, then something like that's going to work immediately. But if somebody's never heard of you, they're like, yeah, so what? What's in it for me? I don't believe you. So the important thing with customer stories is that you pick the right customers to tell the stories for, right? So, you know, in your business, you may have, you know, 1 to 3 of your sort of ideal clients, right? Like whether that's a persona or not a persona or like a real life client, you usually have, you know, maybe 1 to 3 verticals, let's call it, right? You know, types of moms, business women without, you know, like you might have specific people that you're catering to. And so the trick with the case study is to find a success story within those verticals, at least 1 to 3, if you don't have more. The rest of it becomes like icing on the cake, right? And so you find people and you talk about their story. So you put the prospects in the shoes of your happy customer, right? Like, so you talk about, you know, what was going on in their life, what was happening, like what made them decide that they had to make a change, like things weren't working out or they were having a challenge. Problem. We would call that the villain, right? Like in a traditional story, that would be the challenge is the villain, the thing that would be the obstacle that they come against. And then there's like it's a really important part of the case study is what exactly pushed them over the edge? Like what was it about, you know, your solution that they thought, okay, well, let me try that. Did they try other things? Did it work or not work? Or did they, you know, was it a friend that referred them? Like, what was it that made them change their mind? And then it comes to, like, how did they implement so that's life with you? Like, was it difficult? And sometimes if you go too positive, right, then it sounds like BS, right? Yeah. So maybe they struggled to implement something, or say if it was a mindset thing, maybe they struggled with one particular mindset thing, or if it is about, you know, lead generation, maybe they had trouble thinking about lead magnets or whatever it is, and how you specifically help them to get over that, because there are challenges in implementation as well, right?
Do you think that sometimes people might be trying to look for something too big in their case study, like what you just mentioned? For example, you can see that somebody just doesn't know about lead magnets, or you know, doesn't see what they can create. You know, they're like, yeah, I know I need to do something, but what can I do? And you're like, well, it's very obvious, this is what you should do, you know, this is, for me, it's very obvious. But that is already in itself a case study, isn't it? That small little thing that was like a minute for you probably didn't give it much time.
Right. So, I mean, this is why, like, as somebody who creates them, like, I have, you know, a set of questions that I sort of target so I can get, like, the before story, the during story, and the after story, right? So those are all things that I can have in the case study in your happy customer's own words, right? Like, it's knowing, it's a balance of, like, knowing what it is that you're offering. Like, what is the solution exactly? What is the process? What is the hope for outcome, and then it's like going into the happy customer's mind, into what did they expect, like what kind of challenges did they have before, what kind of challenges do they have during, and then like the immediate results, like, oh, that solved my problem, or you know, and then 3 months later, I realized that it really was helpful. Because, I mean, there's also, you got to have that gap afterwards, right? Like, yes, they immediately solve a particular problem, but they don't really understand the full weight of the results till, like, several months afterwards.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes like even with, let's say, the lead magnet, it's only like literally a few months later that you can evaluate how well it worked for you. It's not an overnight thing, but nothing in business is. And if anyone is looking for quick results, they're in the wrong
place. When you're
place.
looking for your customer stories, like that's what you need. You can't be like, oh, this person succeeded, boom, case study. Right? It's like you got to give them a little bit of room. Like you don't want to wait obviously too long, then they've forgotten all about you. But you want to have a little bit of time so you have some kind of actual metrics like results, right? I mean, those are obviously they're important. Like sometimes we lead with that in the headline. It depends. Like some things, some companies are happy to give you metrics and some are not happy to give you metrics, right? So it depends on. Is this more of a quantitative or a qualitative sort of story? But the result is often like the attention grabber, but it's not the thing that I think a lot of people misunderstand. It's not the thing that convinces people, right? If you're bringing them through a selling story, because it's a tool to sell when you're not around, right?
That's right.
I mean, that's why we repurpose customer stories, right? Like, so if you have a sales team, you give it to the sales team to use. If you're sending out proposals and pitches, you add that to the proposal and pitch. So it does the selling for you without you having to be there. It's like, oh, by the way, my happy customer told me that this is that, you have the customer telling it for you. Yes. And then you can take out little bits. You can take out testimonials. You can put it in your sales pages. You can put them in your landing pages. You can put them in your newsletters. You can put them in your email. Like the case study is the narrative, and then you can take out pieces of it and use it like everywhere on your funnel.
Interesting. How long would you say a case study should be? So if somebody is interested, is there something that it could be too long and they can get, lose attention?
Well, it also depends on how technical the solution is,
yeah.
Right? Typically 1,000 words is probably the perfect. It's a sweet spot. There's been some research that's been done by marketers, and 1,000 words is 2 pages is ideal. Any longer, then it's because you need to really break down the actual implementation, right? So then you need to have more copy with that.
So if we want to give our viewers, and a lot of them are entrepreneurs who are doing things on their own in a way, and they would need that kind of information, support, or even just get an idea. Would you be able to give like a general structure, how to create a case study? So case study is not a testimonial. It's a much longer thing,
Yeah, well, I mean, the testimonials can come out of the case study, right?
Yeah.
But the case study is like, it has a structure. It's usually like the before, the company profile, like the challenge, the implementation, so the solution, and then at the end it's the results. So that's typically the structure of a case study. Now you can have charts and stuff to show at the end, the stats obviously to complement the case studies. Pictures are super important, like, to personalize them. Pulling out the quotes is also important. And this is where the copywriting stuff also comes in, is you really need to have a good headline that catches people's attention. And you need to have, because a lot of people don't always read the entire thing, so you need to also be aware of scanners. So you need to have, so instead of just, the typical case study will be problem, solution, results. And that doesn't tell me anything if I'm scanning it.
That's true, and that's one of the dangers in a way of being online a lot, is that we're losing actually our ability to read, and we are scanning this. We don't get
who read? Buyers read. People who buy your stuff, they read everything. They read it all. Because they're not buying stuff if they're not reading it, right?
This is so funny. I don't read, and I buy.
No, like when you think about something that you bought online, you read the reviews, you read the product description,
or
and then
an email.
You fantasized about how that would fit into your life. And if it was a hard product, like for me, for example, if I'm buying a dress, I'm a short woman. I'm short and I'm curvy. So, if I will look for other short, curvy women who are around my height and around my weight who have said, yeah, this fit me fine.
Yes,
because
I got it. Yeah.
So I am reading. You may
Yeah.
I'm scanning and I'm reading. So when you go back to the case studies, like if you just put problem, solution, results, like that doesn't, it tells somebody that that's where it's based, that's where it is. But if you took advantage and put like a sub headline there, and telling the story, for example, content management made easier, or
Yes.
something, or they needed to be able to better communicate with their remote workers, for example, or whatever it is that is the takeaway from that piece. Then people who are scanning will be like, oh wait, okay, let me read that part.
That's
so
right.
It's
yeah.
all these little copywriting tricks where you would. So it's not just a case study where you just
it's attention grabbing, and that's why the
quote.
quotes, it's just attention grabbing, and then if you grab your attention is there, then you will go and you will read.
Yeah. So I mean, for people who are making it themselves, I would say, make sure that you have open-ended questions when you're asking your clients. Like, make sure that it's not like, so did you like it? No, like, what was that like? Please describe it to me. What was your situation before? What kinds of things did you try? What were, just
it's very difficult, I find, with people in general sometimes when you're asking them questions that they would go and expand. So your question and the wording of the question should be so important. It's okay, you have a phone ringing, I have a dog snoring, so I think there it's all right. But you know what I mean? Like people need that direction, and it's so important how you phrase your your questions, or to get that information out, that you can get a good case study, an interesting one as well, and nothing is overlooked as well, especially if it can be used to your advantage.
And just kind of remember that a really convincing case study is one that's a transformational story. Like, it's a transformational story dressed up in a little business suit. If you're B2B, if you're B2C, I mean, it's a little bit of a different ballgame. So I work mostly with B2B because it's, business to business. And as I assume that, you do as well, right? So,
B2B, yes, in terms of that, I work with entrepreneurs. Yes.
So they're another business. Right?
Yeah.
So you're not working, with
of course,
customers.
yeah.
The customer case studies are slightly different when they're, B2C.
Yes, of course.
And I'm not an expert in B2C case studies. So, I mean, but the idea of it is that it's a transformational story. So that part of the transformation I often see is missing in a lot of case studies. Like I said, I like to read other people's case studies, obviously, and the ones that are good, I note, are like, nice story, great headlines, great sublines, great pullouts, great pictures. It's all about making it engaging for me as a reader, right? And it also has a good story. Like somebody who had a problem just like me, who's just like me, found the solution. They tried it, so they took the risk. I don't have to. Just like buying the dress. Somebody else bought the dress. It fit them. It wasn't too long in the body. It didn't, whatever.
They
right?
look like you, so you have a chance. Exactly. Tell me, what are the biggest mistakes you see with people creating case studies? What are the biggest problems they might not be aware of that they're making, but what are the mistakes?
Well, one of the things I see a lot are those little profile ones where maybe they have a little tiny bit about the company, and then they just say the solution was this, and then the result was this, and it's like maybe 500 words, maybe less, and there's no personality. And it's like, I see this on a lot of company websites, and they'll have like a bunch of them, and it's just like this, I don't know, like, it's so boring. It's like, we don't have to be, B2B doesn't mean boring to boring. Like, it really doesn't have to be boring, right?
That's true.
So that's the biggest mistake I see, because yes, it shows that a bunch of people use your product, but it doesn't mean anything to me. So it's not going to convince me. Like, if I were doing research, whether I'm not going to work with a particular, like, pick up a particular software, oftentimes it's because I have a problem, but I may not want to switch. Like, I need a compelling reason to switch, and I need that compelling reason to come from your customer.
That is so interesting. And guys, listen to this. If you are, if you're marketing yourself, branding yourself, whether it's a personal brand or you're selling a product, majority of my audience are people who are like myself, growing their personal brand. These case studies, all we do here and all I teach is about creating conversations and relationships with people. Because when people feel that they relate to you at any level, sometimes even at level you don't suspect, they are also, they have this urge to make a purchase as well. So in a way they can purchase into your products or services just because they're emotional that you are so the same like them. Like you like travel, they like travel.
That's actually the trick, is that they have to be the same. They have to be able to put themselves in your customer too.
You're a foodie, they're a foodie. They're like, oh my God, she's a foodie. I want to buy her course. I've done that, and I know that that's how it works. So what we were talking here about in the case study, it's exactly the same approach. So treat it as try and get related to them on a personal level, that you can help them as a friend rather than, go away from the corporate speak in your case studies. I think that this is something that kills websites, kills about pages, kills us just when we're trying to be too corporate. And we are taught this in the universities. We're taught this academic language. Myself and my husband, we always have this conversation. His English is amazing, but it's very academic. And I say to him, look, that's just too much, too dry. We need some passion and we need to connect on a soul level. So the case studies is what I'm picking from what you're saying is exactly the same. You need to create that connection, and that's your number one goal. The other things, the actual results and everything, yes, they're there, but it's the connection that will give you the sale and make that case study work for you.
Exactly.
That's right. So if we wanted to find out more, or we wanted to, where can we find you, or how can we get in touch?
Well, you can go to my website, is convincingcasestudies.com, and there's ways to get a hold of me there. I also have a Facebook page, it's Convincing Case Studies, but I don't have a lot of content there yet, but I will in the new year. I plan to do a lot more live video.
Perfect. So, yes. So and you look very well. You have
case studies and stories and stuff.
You have a great backdrop for the lives. I love how your red top matches your curtains. I did. Today is a special day for me. I did actually a session with a backdrop stylist, and even though
your backdrop's different,
even though I don't have like a bucket of paint and all the kind of colors to put my brand colors there, but I changed a little bit, and I'm kind of loving it. There's a big difference.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so you have a nice.
You now have a depth, right? Like, because your wall was really close to you last time.
That's what she said. That's what she said.
And I like your happy lucky cat.
My cat. Yes, that's a Japanese one. Yes, I love it. Yeah, it's definitely bringing me luck. So this is something that. Well, look, I am going to put the link to your website into the top here, and we're getting distracted.
I have a reservation for tomorrow, and they're trying to confirm.
We are going to go. That's okay. I'm going to cut this out when it goes on YouTube or wherever. But I am so delighted that we could connect, and you dropped so many nuggets here. It's absolutely brilliant. I think that we have summarized now the main thing. And guys, if you have any questions about how to make quick case studies after this, get in touch with Shehani. She is so friendly, she's so lovely, and she will look after you.
Down in the comments, and I'll circle back and I'll answer questions.
Absolutely, that's great. Now, guys, have a great day, and we will talk to you soon. And thank you for watching Easy Chat Live. Bye.
Thanks,
bye, Shehani. Bye bye.